Hey everyone, welcome to this week's video where in celebration of Halloween, we'll be taking a look at the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror series.
Wasn't it Halloween last week?
The Treehouse of Horror series were definitely the highlights of the Simpsons series, with each special consisting of 3 mini episodes, each lasting 5 to 7 minutes in length. These episodes were not canon to the regular Simpsons universe, meaning the writers could flex their creativity with all sorts of wacky storylines and character murders that you just couldn't have in a regular Simpsons episode. And I've gotta say, trying to narrow down all the Treehouse of Horror specials to just 5 was a lot more difficult than I thought. Not just because the quality is just that good for the Treehouse of Horror series, but also because I'm having to judge the episodes as a whole, rather than just the individual shorts within the episodes. Some episodes didn't make the list which actually had some of my all-time favourite Halloween shorts in them, but were let down by the other 2 shorts not quite being up to par, thus bringing the average episode quality down. Maybe for a future review I'll do a list of the actual individual shorts rather than the episodes as a whole. But for now, let's take a look at my pick for the top 5 Treehouse of Horror episodes. Kicking off our list at number 5 is Treehouse of Horror 12. The first short is titled Hex and the City, and is probably the weakest out of the 3. The plot involves Homer upsetting a fortune-telling gypsy, so in an act of revenge he places a curse on him, which brings bad luck to all of his loved ones. And I say bad luck, but most of the misfortunes come down to supernatural curses, like Lisa turning into a horse, or Marge turning into the Beast from X-Men. Homer decides to set out and capture a leprechaun in order to counter the gypsy's bad luck, but it doesn't quite go to plan as the leprechaun and the gypsy fall in love, and that's pretty much the end of the short. Like I said, not a bad short by any stretch of the means. Some of the curses were pretty creative, and the jokes were good.
Marge, that curse is just a lot of silly superstition. Right, Lisa? See? 2 means yes.
But overall, this short just felt very meh.
So Steve, why is it on the top 5 list then?
Well, it's the next 2 shorts that really carry this episode as a whole. The second short, House of Wax, is a parody of the classic film Space Odyssey, where the Simpsons upgrade their home and get their very own HAL 3000, voiced by Pierce Brosnan of course.
He was Remington Steele, wasn't he?
Yes, I was, Marge. And thank you for selecting me.
Well, hello, Pierce.
Hashtag best James Bond. Pierce Brosnan is hilarious in this, and the highlight of the episode. Whereas Pierce starts off pleasant and charming, he soon starts to show his more malicious side as he attempts to kill off Homer so that he can be with Marge, leading to some pretty gory moments. I also like the design of the house with how it has the classic Disney style gloves, paying homage to the classic cartoons of the 30s and 40s. I won't spoil how this short ends, but I've got to say it's hilarious and I recommend watching it if you haven't already. The final short is WizKids, which is an obvious parody of the Harry Potter series. Like in the Harry Potter series, all the kids study magic at school, and as you'd expect, Lisa is good at it, and Bart, well, isn't.
Turn into a prince guy?
I remember seeing this as a child and absolutely cracking up at this poor frog guy. I don't know why it's so funny, as this poor thing is clearly in agony.
Every moment I live is agony.
I guess I'm just a shitty person. Bart becomes jealous of Lisa and decides to join forces with Lord Montymore and Slithers in order to take Lisa down. Eventually though, Bart begins to feel guilty and takes out the evil Montymore by stabbing him in his enchanted shin. One interesting thing to note is that in the UK, the scene where Slithers begins to eat Montymore is sometimes cut from airing. I have no idea why, considering all the other stuff in the short is uncensored, but hey, that's censorship for you. Rolling up at number 4 is Treehouse of Horror 9. Our first short is titled Hell to Pay, where Snake is arrested for smoking in a no smoking zone.
Oh, God, you smokers disgust me. Hey, Pooh, you got a breakfast cereal for people with syphilis?
I remember as a kid asking my dad what syphilis was, and I distinctly remember him saying, I don't know, son. Thankfully back then we didn't have internet for me to look it up. Snake is given the death sentence, but swears he will get revenge on Moe, Apu, and Bart for being witnesses. After Snake is killed, his hair is donated to Homer as a hair transplant. God, that pizza cutter scene made me cringe up then, and it makes me cringe up now. The transplant appears to have been a success, but the hair starts to take over Homer's mind, causing him to become Snake. Snake then heads out and kills Apu and Moe, in a pretty gruesome manner too.
For crying out loud. God.
When he's finally about to kill Bart, Homer manages to fight back against the hair, to which the hair tries to make a getaway, but is soon gunned down.
Now that's what I call a bad hair day.
Guess you could say that joke was hilarious.
For crying out loud. God.
The second short is titled The Terror of Tiny Toon, my personal favourite of the 3 shorts. In this episode, Marge doesn't want the kids staying in to watch cartoons on Halloween, so switches off the TV and removes the batteries from the remote. Why Bart and Lisa just couldn't turn the TV back on manually? I guess plot. So Bart finds a plutonium bar from Homer's toolbox and uses it to make a makeshift battery, causing Bart and Lisa to get sucked into the TV. At first, things seem to be going great, as they get to see Itchy and Scratchy up close and live. But the cartoon characters, those two, not these two, find it deeply mean that Bart and Lisa would laugh at Scratchy's pain, so team up to teach them a lesson. What follows is a great series of classic cartoon gags, along with some hilarious visuals, and I quite like how the short is wrapped up too. The third and final short is titled Starship Poopers, where Maggie starts to experience some weird growth patterns, developing a singular sharp tooth, and growing alien-like tentacles. It's revealed that Maggie's real father is the notorious alien Kang, but the family don't want to give Maggie up, so they decide to settle the dispute on the Jerry Springer Show, which ends up being one of the funniest Simpsons sequences ever. Only wish they could have done the same thing on the UK equivalent show of Jeremy Kyle. God, I'd love to see an alien beat the shit out of Jeremy Kyle. In at number 3 is Treehouse of Horror 3. The plot revolves around the family trying to tell scary stories at the Halloween party. And yes, I do say plot. In the earlier Simpson Halloween specials, it was common to have an overarching plot like this, which would tie all the shorts in together and explain why they weren't canon to the show. In future installments, however, this overarching plot device would be scrapped and we would just jump straight into the shorts. You can argue that this is a good thing as it gives slightly more episode time for the shorts themselves, but me personally, I quite like the linking narrative. The first short is titled Clown Without Pity, where Homer purchases a cursed Krusty the Clown doll as a last minute present for Bart's birthday. This soon backfires on Homer though, as the evil doll sets out to kill him. In a sort of Chucky-like parody, I guess. This episode isn't exactly scary nor gory, but does offer some hilarious moments.
There goes the last lingering thread of my heterosexuality.
One thing I noticed upon rewatching this though is a narrative error. At the beginning of the episode, it is shown that Lisa is the one telling the story, but at the end, it is shown that Homer is now telling it. Whoopsie. The second short is titled King Homer. Not only my favourite short out of the 3, but also one of my favourite Simpson Halloween shorts overall. Little known fact about this short that barely anyone recognises is that this short is actually based on the classic film King Kong. Mind blowing, right? The idea of having Homer portraying the iconic giant gorilla is just perfect. The jokes are sharp.
What do you think, Smithers?
I think women and semen don't mix.
We know what you think.
And that's the second character with a gay reference in this episode. And the bone crunching you hear as Homer eats people alive is actually quite gruesome. I also like the alternate ending they give this episode as opposed to the original film. Definitely what Peter Jackson's 2005 remake should have gone for. Our final short is titled Dial Z for Zombies, or Z for Zombies, for my viewers across the pond. This story focuses around Bart finding an old magic book and trying to use it to resurrect their old cat Snowball. I noticed this to be an animation error, as in other episodes it has been established that the original Snowball was white, not black. Hence the name.
You shall now call me Snowball, because my fur is pretty and white.
Bart's spell doesn't work out, as instead it ends up bringing the human dead back to life.
Bart, you cast the wrong spell! Zombies! Please, Lise, they prefer to be called the living impaired.
And once again, we see an example of what was a simple joke 20 years ago, now becoming a reality in today's society.
Remember, demon can be an offensive term. Refer to them as mortally challenged.
The rest of the episode focuses around the Simpson family running and fighting off zombies, leading to great action, and of course, brilliant jokes.
Hey, Simpson, I'm feeling a mite peckish. Mind if I chew your ear?
Dad, you killed the zombie Flanders!
You was a zombie?
Living at large at number 2 is Treehouse of Horror 6, with the first short titled Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores, where Homer steals the donut belonging to a statue, only to have the statue come to life, and along with the rest of the advertisements, they begin to tear up the town. This episode is action-packed, offers a lot of great visual gags, such as the Peanut Man eating people like peanuts, and Bart actually being the evil influence on Satan's shoulder. I always used to have a special spot in my heart for this short as a child, as I was a huge Godzilla fan, and hearing the iconic Godzilla roar come out of the Donut Man statue always brought a smile to my face. The second short of our second best Halloween episode is Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace, where the school caretaker Willie is murdering the Springfield children in their dreams to get revenge on the parents that let him burn to death. This episode is incredibly dark compared to the other Halloween shorts, not just with the intense visuals of seeing Willie slowly burn to death, but also holding some real dark humour as well.
Bart, don't you realize what this means? The next time we fall asleep, we could die.
Welcome to my world.
And our final short is Homer 3, or Homer Cubed, I guess. Now this is the episode everyone remembers, no matter how much of a casual Simpsons fan you were. Marge's sisters Patty and Selma are coming over for a visit. Not wanting to interact with them, Homer tries to find a hiding place to avoid them at all costs. Rather than taking the logical spot, such as hiding in an upstairs bedroom or sneaking out to the back door, Homer instead chooses to hide behind a bookshelf in the living room, but accidentally finds himself in the third dimension. Seeing Homer enter into this 3D world goes down as one of the most iconic moments in Simpsons history. The 3D modelling looks awesome and possesses an eerie claymation sort of style, giving Homer a more detailed and realistic look than we would see in later 3D Simpson games where the models are made to look more cartoony. The abstract design of the 3D world looks fantastic, and the whimsical music playing over the top fits the scene perfectly. Bart eventually also enters the 3D world in an attempt to rescue Homer, but unfortunately fails in the most hilarious manner.
You'll have to jump!
Piece of cake, son.
The last portion of this episode goes one step further and ends with Homer ending up in our world. And I just love how the normal people react to Homer's presence as he timidly walks down the street. Without a doubt, the number one Simpsons Treehouse of Horror has to be Treehouse of Horror 5. As I said in the previous entries, there was always that one short which didn't quite live up to the standard of the other two. Well, in this one, every single short hits the mark. A good Simpsons Halloween episode will have 3 traits to it: parodying classical horror tropes, having a creative sci-fi concept, and of course, giving us a nice bit of blood and gore. Each short in Treehouse of Horror 5 dedicates itself to one of these elements, and they nail it every time. The first short, being titled The Shinning,
You mean shining.
You wanna get sued?
is an obvious play on the classic horror film The Shining, where Jack Torrance, played by Homer in this short, turns insane and goes on a rampage to murder his family. This episode parodies the original film brilliantly, using dark lighting and shadows to really give this episode a grim tone, and utilising intense music which really gives some scenes high levels of tension. But as well as using the classical horror tropes to build suspense, this short also manages to turn classic iconic moments into brilliant jokes. And as I mentioned in my worst Simpsons of Treehouse of Horror episode, you've really got to appreciate the animation used on Homer to demonstrate his insanity. The second short is titled Time and Punishment, where Homer accidentally invents a time-travelling toaster and is constantly altering the past, which is leading to drastic changes in the future. I always love a good bit of time travel, and I love the idea of a small, seemingly insignificant change in the past having huge repercussions on our present day. So much creativity is crammed into this episode that I almost forget it's only 7 minutes long, not to mention the jokes are on top form too.
You're gaining on me! Wait! I have an idea! These wieners will give me the quick energy I need to escape!
I especially love how towards the end, Homer just loses the plot and starts destroying everything in a fit of rage. Honestly, Simpsons creativity and humour at its finest. And our third and final short is Nightmare Cafeteria, where the teachers discover they can solve their lack of decent cafeteria food and overcrowding of detention by serving the troublemaking students up as a meal. In this episode, I love the teachers' reactions when they find out what's going on.
Are you saying you killed Jimbo, processed his carcass and served him for lunch?
The teachers soon become obsessed with the delicious child meat and have soon devoured nearly every student in the school. This episode is incredibly dark and creepy, offering some disturbing imagery that could even put some horror films to shame. And of course there's the bonus scene at the end where Bart finds out it was all a dream, but a fog rolls in which causes the Simpsons family to turn inside out and they begin to perform a jolly musical number. But even this soon turns dark as we see Santa's little helper dragging Bart away to devour him. This episode is definitely the top Treehouse of Horror for me, without a doubt, and is also one of my favourite episodes of the entire Simpsons series. And that's it for the top 5 Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes. Thank you very much for watching, you guys. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe to stick around for future reviews. Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section on your favourite Halloween short. Did it make the list? If not, tell me why it should have. Be sure to check out my other videos appearing on the left here, but until the next one guys, take care, and happy Halloween.
From a week ago